Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at this one right here, Speed Freaks in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. This is basically orcs in machines that go as fast as they possibly can and do things that are stupid crazy in a very orky way. And there's a number of different scenarios in the box where you're trying to win in a number of different ways. Maybe it's racing around a track, maybe it's just dealing out destruction and mayhem as quickly and efficiently and as orkily as possible. So basically, let's get down to the table. We'll take a look at it and we'll come back with some final thoughts in just a few moments. Let's hit it. So the first thing that's going to happen in the round is there's going to be a cunning phase. And the cunning phase is where you take your 10 dice and you're going to allot it to 3 different places on your shield, well, behind your shield. The first one is the cunning phase space, then the speeding phase space, and the shooting phase space. And so once you have determined how your dice are going to be split up, both players would simultaneously reveal how many dice they have allotted for each different area, and then the cunning dice are rolled to see who has initiative. So let's say that my opponent is going to roll 1 die, so we roll them all together like so, and lightning bolts are worth 2 initiative points, and shields and targets are worth 1 initiative point, and then the explosive ones here are worth none. So at this point right now, red has 2, 3, and yellow only has 1 initiative. So the red player would actually get the initiative for the beginning round. So the person who has the initiative marker here is going to be able to take a number of dice and add it to one of the vehicles. So let's say that I want to add 2 dice to my battle wagon here. I would do that. And now the other person has the ability to add one of their dice to one of their vehicles. So let's say he just adds 1 battle die to his battle wagon, and now I can continue with a second one of mine. So I want to make sure that maybe my boss here gets up into close combat with that battle wagon there, so they're going to go ahead and do that. Now my opponent has an ability, and so forth and so on until everybody has at least 1 die attributed to them. And then in initiative order, starting with the person who has the initiative token, now you can choose one of your vehicles to carry out their movement. So let's say, for example, I want to move this guy right here, so I'm going to roll these 2 dice, and it's going to determine how many movement points I can use for that vehicle. This one means that there is no movement points at all. Anything else will give you 2, 1, and 1 movement points. So what that basically means here is, since I have 1 movement point, so I can use any one of my gubbins to move my vehicle. Now, if I use one of these guys, which is a basic one, only has 1 arrow on it, I can use any number of these for any of the vehicles throughout the course of my turn. Here's another basic gubbins right here. Or I can use a special gubbins, the ones that have 2 arrows. Now, what this means is that I can only use this one once per round. Then, I also have this special gubbins here, and I have another one here, and this one as well. So you have a bunch of different special gubbins that you can use. Or you can use a snazzy gubbins, which is one of these things that has the 3 red arrows on it. And basically what this guy does is you can use one of these per vehicle in a game battle. So an entire game, you can use this once per one of your vehicles. So in this particular case, I'm trying to get this guy lined up to where he's going to be able to do something nasty to the battle wagon. So we're going to do something like this right here and use this special gubbins like this. And what will happen here is you have to pick him up and move him along that imaginary path so that he is basically at the end right there, just like that. All right, now after I've made my move here, since I used a special gubbins, I'm going to have to make a driving skill test by rolling this 8-sided die. Now my driving skill for the custom Booster Blaster here is an 8. So I'm going to roll this die, add 1 to it because I'm using a special gubbins, and it has to be 8 or lower. Otherwise, I'm going to have some problems here. All right, that's a perfect roll. It's a 2. Nothing bad happens. If I would have failed, like say for example, I rolled an 8 plus 1 is 9, which is higher than my driving skill. This guy would have spun out, and I would have rolled the 8-sided die, and that would have determined which orientation the car would have been in. But since I didn't, I passed my driving test. No worries whatsoever. I can actually remove this from the board and we're good to go. And then my opponent has the opportunity to move one of his vehicles. Let's say he wants to maybe position this guy, so he rolls and he has 1 ability. So we're going to go ahead and say that he does something like this, and he's just going to try to drive right past and go like so. And we're not actually in base contact. Now, he could have rammed me, which would have been really kind of bad for both of us. But since he did that, he also used the special gubbins. He's got a roll. He has a 4 plus a 5, so he's good to go as well. But what this is going to do is it's going to allow a couple of my guys to fire at him. It's also going to allow him to fire possibly one of his guns, but I don't think so, because I think these guys have just forward firing, and we're outside of that arc. So that's it for those 2 guys, and then we would move the rest of our vehicles around as well. All right, so now that we have everything done in the speeding phase, we're going to go to the shooting phase now. And so now all of the dice that we have allocated to the shooting phase here will be able to be allocated to a vehicle of your choice. Now, if you put all of your dice on one vehicle, they have to be split up in between the different things, the different weapons that you have, as evenly as possible. So if I have 2 dice here, I could say the rivet cannon is going to shoot, and let's say the grot blaster, this guy right back here, is going to shoot as well. So I could do something like that, or I could just say the rivet cannon is going to shoot over here, and this guy, one of my war bikers, is going to use his DACA guns on his bike here to do that. So he'll go ahead and do one as well. That's how you would split up the dice. But what we're actually going to do is we're going to have the grot blaster and the rivet cannon shoot with this guy here, and we'll wait for a future turn for these guys to shoot. So what we'll do first of all, now normally you have these firing arcs that you would have to use on the vehicle. So if you have a front firing weapon, for example, this dragster has a front firing weapon only, so you'd have to put your firing arc like this. You'd have to see if those firing arcs fall within, if any models fall within that. But some weapons, like the custom Booster Blaster rivet cannon here, says front, left, right, or rear. And the reason it says that is because this guy is on a pivoting axis, and he can just turn around and let him have it like that. And then the grot blaster down here, which is the other one that I picked, has a rear firing arc. So the rear firing arc would go on there, and of course he falls within that firing arc. So both of those guys are going to be able to take a shot. Now, in the shooting phase, we take a look at how many shots the weapon has. So with the rivet cannon, it's 3, and then the grot blaster down here has 1. So that's going to be 4 dice altogether that I'm going to be able to roll in order to attack. The rivet cannon is going to do 2 damage for every successful hit, but the grot blaster is only going to do 1 damage for every successful hit. So we'll roll the rivet cannon first. It has, 3 dice that it rolls, and there we go. So what's going to happen here is that's 2 successful hits causing a possible 4 damage to this cart, or basically 4 draws of damage. So now what this guy is able to do is roll his armor, which is 4. So he's going to be rolling 4 dice in defense, like so. Let's say that he was able to only defend 1 of them, and the rest of them were misses, then one would be done away with, but that one goes through, and since it was the rivet cannon, he would have to draw 2 damage cards like this. So the first one here says crunch. This model suffers 1 damage. So basically on its card you would put 1 damage counter. And then this one says place this card next to the model's data card to driving test. It adds +1 for driving test to this model. An additional at the start of each round, roll a d8 on a 1 to 4. The fire goes out on a 5 through 8. You'll add a damage to draw an additional damage card for the model. So this one's actually going to be carrying over from turn to turn, possibly causing some more damage. This one is immediately attributed to the model like that, with adding one of those tokens to it. So this would get put in a discard pile. Now, that was the rivet cannon. Now we have to roll for the Grot Blasta, and that's a successful, no, I'm sorry, that's not a successful hit because that's a shield. I have to roll a lightning bolt or a target symbol. So that Grot Blasta didn't do any damage at all. We don't have to roll for defense. After everybody has attributed all of their shooting dice, then we go into the fighting phase where melee attacks will be able to happen. So if you have an instance here where you have 2 models that are next to each other within 2 inches. So for example, we can check this one right here, definitely not within 2 inches. So there's no problems there, but these 2 guys are definitely within 2 inches. All right, so for the melee attack of the custom booster, you have to roll 3 dice. So he's going to roll 3 dice here, and that is 2 attacks, 2 successful hits, and then the Dragster is going to be able to roll his armor of, oh wow, that's not good at all. These are 3 misses. So that is 1 defend, which would take away one of these guys. So now he has 1 hit withstanding. So he's going to be taking another point of damage like so. Now the Dragster has 9, so he's still in pretty good shape. But now on his turn, he's going to be doing the same thing, which is also 3 and 4 all together. So 3 dice would be rolled for the attack, and that would be 2 hits like so, and then 4 dice, because these are 2 wagons going against each other, for defense, and we have 2 defense right there, so no damage card is drawn for the custom Booster Blasta. And basically that's about it. What would happen after the fighting phase is that you would go back to a cunning phase where you're going to split up your dice behind your shield, and then reveal and roll if you have any cunning dice that you attributed there. Now, as an aside, if nobody decides to put dice in the cunning phase to roll for initiative, you simply roll the 8-sided die, and that will determine whoever goes first. Whoever gets the highest roll goes first in the round. So there is that. You don't ever have to put dice here. You just might want to in case you want to go first. But you would start a new phase where you go through all of the phases again, and you continue doing that until one player has reached the victory conditions that the scenario has spelled out for you, or if you've simply destroyed all of the other models for your opponent. So that's about that for Speed Freaks from Games Workshop in the Warhammer 40K universe. Basically, there is a lot of different things that you can do with the base box. I guess within the parameters of the 2 teams that you have, there's a lot of a pretty sizable deck of those custom job cards that I showed you. You can do other kinds of configurations with the different bits that are in the box as far as different models and different attachments and all of this other kind of stuff that you can do. There are also battle sheets, or whatever you want to call it, for adding the models that come in this box to your actual 40K armies. So there's that added benefit. You can just use these models in your army that you already have going. The one thing that I didn't show is that the boards that you use in the game are really sizable boards, probably two of these make up the size of one normal sized game board, but they are also double-sided. So that's another thing that will change the look up a little bit and all that kind of stuff. So that is that. Let's go ahead and get to my pros and cons. So my first pro, I cannot look this over. Whenever we talk about a Games Workshop game, we have to mention the models. You're probably getting tired of hearing that, but I just have to do it because as models and miniature games are concerned, in my opinion, Games Workshop does the best job. I love the detail, and with these new kind of models that are a little bit more simple to put together that they're coming out with some games, not necessarily this one, they're really kind of evolving, I guess you'd say, with the hobby, making it a little bit easier to move into a miniature gaming scene. But the detail that comes in these models is top notch. The level of quality plastic that they use, all this kind of stuff, the models are amazing and you just can't get over it. It has to be my first pro. Now, along with that, some of the other components that come with it, the custom dice are great. They are nice and chunky. They're custom made. They're not just regular, okay, rolls of 6 or rolls of 5 or what have you. So that's a cool thing as well. The other components, the templates and all of this other kind of stuff, they're all very well done. The cards are a little bit on the chintzy side, but not any more so than any other Games Workshop board game that's been put out there. So that's that. The shield and all of that kind of stuff were well done and hold up, are pretty sturdy as well. So the component quality definitely gets a pro status. Now, as far as gameplay is concerned, this is a really simple game to play, but it is a fun game to play. It doesn't feel like they wanted to sell the miniatures and, oh yeah, here's a a meh game that you can play with it. It actually has good things to it. I like the fact that they're using templates and they're not just giving a range of motion that you can move, and then you come up with all of these different weird, trails that these pieces. You have to follow the templates that you have, and you're restricted to the kind of templates that you can use and the number of templates that you can use. It's possible that your vehicle that you wanted to move this turn will stall out because you rolled a couple of blast symbols on those dice during the speeding phase. So that's a possibility. The range of the weapons and all of that kind of stuff is normal, I guess you could say, for this kind of game. They didn't do anything outrageous and they didn't do anything groundbreaking, but they didn't have to. It's a tried and true system of combat where your guns have different ranges, and I did like the firing arc capability where, and they provided a template for you, so you didn't have to kind of fudge your way through that. They gave you a template to use, and I like that. One of the things that I didn't go over in the speeding phase is that you can actually use those firing arc templates to drift and change the trajectory of your car just slightly, and that'll help you move around the battlefield a little bit more. So there's that too. But as far as the gameplay is concerned, this is a solid battle game with vehicles that can also be done to race things around. So this isn't like they just put this cruddy game so that they could sell their models again. No, this has some actual thought put into it, and it is fun. My third pro for the game is its theme, and I'm not talking specifically about the 40K universe. It's using models from the 40K universe, but it doesn't feel like 40K. It feels like a demolition derby with orcs. And I like that. I like that because I was always fascinated by demolition derbies because more often than not, you don't want to hit things with your car. But in a demolition derby, that's perfectly fine. Well, it really fits the orc mindset here of driving this around. And yeah, if I can shoot at you, I'm going to shoot at you. But if I can't shoot at you, I'm going to ram into you and do as much damage as I possibly can. Yeah, I'm going to mess myself up a little bit, but I think I might hurt you more. And I like that. It's just fun. It's fun to do that, and to maneuver your vehicles around. The theme just really kind of shines in this idea. And the fact that there are orcs behind the wheel just really kind of pushes it to that next level as far as theme. So the thematic value of this game was great. Now, as far as cons are concerned for the game, I usually don't talk about price point, and I'm really not. But what the con here is that this already has a couple games, this market, this niche of the market, where it's kind of like this post-apocalyptic demolition derby type Mad Maxian feel that it has going for it. It already has a couple games that are really popular and really inexpensive to get into. One of them, you just simply modify Hot Wheels cars. Man, how cheap is that? So it has that going against it. I don't think it's really necessarily a con of the game. It's basically a con by virtue of the market that it's going for, because it is a pretty hefty price point. You're talking about $100+ depending on where you get it from on the internet, or whether you pick it up at your store. I know that people were saying that it's about 70 to 77 pounds over in the UK. Somebody was saying it's on Amazon for 125. So look, I'm not really talking about price point, because that's your money. You do with it what you want to do with it. But my point that I'm making here is that there are already some really popular games in this genre that aren't nearly as expensive as this game. So that might have something going against it, which is why I'm mentioning it here in the con area. But really, all in all, that's my only con for this game. Taking it for what it is, I wasn't expecting it to be this great strategic tactical thing, and I wasn't expecting it to be just a trash game that was included in a box of miniatures. I was hoping that it would be a good, fun, easy to play, easy to teach game, and that's exactly what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and give this my seal of approval and give it a 7 out of 10, because I do like the game and I think it definitely has its merits. Yes, the price point will probably maybe affect whether or not people get into it, because like I said, during that con section, they already have games in there that are less expensive and people already enjoy them, so why make the jump? That might affect it a lot. But I think that if you desire some really, really primo models and have a simple, basic, yet fun and strategic game, I think this is right in that alley. And if price isn't a consideration for you, I think that you'll be very happy with the game. And as such, I'm giving it my seal of approval. 7 out of 10. Thank you for joining me. I certainly appreciate it. And we'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care.